Volvo is primarily known for its focus on vehicle safety. With its upcoming all-electric EX90 7-seater SUV, the Swedish automaker is making sure that its sensor system is truly redundant with the addition of LiDAR as it moves toward the world of autonomous driving. This is the EX90, the latest electric vehicle to land in the United States from Volvo. And unlike the XC40 Recharge, which has a gas counterpart, this vehicle is on its own new platform. Now, it is a bit of a companion to the XC90, which is the gas large SUV from Volvo, but this vehicle is entirely new. And it's not just that it's new, it's also very important for the automaker. It's the beginning of what Volvo says is a plan to introduce a new EV every year, and then by the year 2030 to only be selling electric vehicles. While we're not able to take this vehicle for a spin just yet, Volvo has given us a chance to check out what we can expect from the vehicle when it lands in the US in early 2024. At first glance, it might look like about the same size as the XC90. The reality is that this vehicle is a little bit longer and a little bit shorter than that vehicle. And of course, because it's an EV, they have eliminated the grille that we've come to see on cars for generations. It's an EV, it doesn't need that anymore. That extra space on the vehicle actually comes behind the rear wheels. It adds additional legroom for that third row and additional cargo space, and the fact that it's a little bit shorter improves aerodynamics without sacrificing headroom. In addition to not being as aerodynamic as the EX90, the XC90 also doesn't have this cool little light system that when you turn the headlights on, it sort of opens its eyes. Ooh, like a kitty cat waking up from a nap. The automaker has an EPA target of 300 miles of range for the EX90. For the large 7-seater, that's an impressive feat from the 111 kilowatt-hour capacity battery pack, of which 107 kilowatt-hours are usable. In other words, it's built for family road trips with the entire family and maybe a few friends or dogs. For those long road trips, the EX90 supports DC fast charging up to 250 kilowatts, which is impressive for a 400-volt architecture system. Now, Volvo says it'll charge from 10 to 80% in about 30 minutes, which is just enough time to grab a bite to eat or for 7 people to use the restroom. It also supports plug-in charge, so there's no need to whip out an app or credit card when plugged into a compatible charging station. At home, the onboard charger supports speeds up to 11 kilowatts, and what's more impressive is that the vehicle supports bi-directional charging. In some markets, including the United States, Volvo plans to introduce a home energy management system. Now, it'll include a bi-directional wall box, so your car, in addition to being charged by the grid, it can also be used to power your house or send power back to the grid in theory. Now, this is great if you live in an area where you have tiered pricing. You pay more during the day than you do at night. So at night, you could charge your Volvo up, and during the day, you could run your house off of your vehicle. Or if you happen to live in, well, a location that has a lot of blackouts, your house could run off the car in your garage. Here in the interior is the typical Swedish minimalism we've come to expect from Volvo. If you've been in a Volvo or a Polestar in the last few years, this will not be much of a surprise. There's not a lot of buttons going on in this vehicle. What you do have is your shifter is a stock here, you have your media controls, you have your driver's assistance controls, and then you have your lights and your wiper controls right here. Other than that, everything else is housed in this 14.5-inch portrait screen. It is running Android Automotive, so you have access to Google Maps, all your Google stuff you can do from this display. Also, if you have Google Home in your house, you can say things like, warm up my car. The way they've done it, the design, is really calming. It's like a walk in the forest with some mist and the sun just sort of breaking through the trees. Here in the second row, it's actually comfortable. I have the seat set for me in the front seat, so it's set for someone who's 6'3". I'm 6'3", sitting in the back. It's fine. You know, my knees are slightly touching it, but I can just boom and it's fine. The third row, almost like with all other large SUVs, the third row is really for those who are shorter than 6 foot tall or for children. Can you transport 7 people in this vehicle? Yes. Can you transport 6 people comfortably if they're all under 6 foot? Oh, totally yes. What the car lacks in physical buttons, it makes up for in sensors. Now, for the driver, there are 2 cameras that are watching you. There's one here in the dash, and there's one underneath the dash cluster, which is attached to the steering column. Now, these two sensors are actually watching your face, but instead of just checking to see if your eyes are drooping because you're drowsy, what Volvo is doing is checking to see how engaged you are in the act of driving. For example, if I'm just staring off, I have a 1,000-yard stare, it's going to think that I'm not as engaged. But if my eyes are looking at the rearview mirror, if it's looking at the side mirror, if I'm checking my blind spots, the vehicle determines that I'm a more engaged driver than, again, if I'm just sort of staring off into nowhere. I might be looking at the road, but I might be daydreaming. Now, Volvo uses that information, so let's say you encounter a situation where there's a car in front of you, it's slowing down, it's taking a right. You've determined in your brain that car is going to be out of the way by the time you get to it. Volvo just sees a car that's stopped. If I'm highly engaged, the vehicle will not alarm me as quickly as if it thought I was not engaged. So if I'm just sort of staring off in the distance, it'll start giving me alerts that I'm encountering a vehicle that stopped. But if I'm highly engaged, it'll assume and trust me to do the right thing. The other sensors in the vehicle are these 7 radar sensors that essentially check for life. Now, we've all had the situation where we've stuck a bag or something heavy on the passenger seat and the vehicle has, incorrectly determined that there's a human sitting there and they're not wearing a seatbelt. So now either you have to set the seatbelt on or you have to just knock the thing onto the floor. What Volvo is doing with these radar sensors is searching for life. It's not using the weight of what's going on in the seat. Instead, what it's doing is it's looking for breath and movement. It's looking for living objects. So whether you have a human or a little baby human or a dog or a cat, the Volvo can determine that that is a living creature, and if you get out of the car without it, it'll alert you. Or if they're sitting somewhere, it'll alert you that they need to put their seatbelt on. If you just have a big box, it's not going to bother you. If you're concerned Android Auto is not going to play with your iPhone, don't be. The EX90 supports CarPlay, it's wireless CarPlay, so you can bring your iPhone in here and still enjoy all your iPhone-related apps while driving around. The vehicle also supports using your phone as a key, and it supports both iOS and Android, and that's a great little feature if you want to leave your key fob at home or for some reason you lock your keys in the car. What's really important is this sensor right here. This is a LiDAR sensor. This is in addition to the cameras and the radar sensors that are on the vehicle, and it's going to help Volvo deliver a really nice driver's assistance system that has the usual adaptive cruise control and lane keeping. But Volvo says that this vehicle has all the hardware, including this LiDAR, that will allow in the future, once the software is ready, for these vehicles to drive autonomously. Now, Volvo doesn't like to use levels, but what it sounds like they want to do is have a system that is a level 3 system initially, once autonomous driving is available, that'll allow you to drive the vehicle, say, on a divided highway at low speeds, hands off and eyes off. Initially, the EX90 will be available in 2 trim levels. Both will have dual motors and all-wheel drive. There will be the twin motor variant with 402 horsepower and 568 pound-feet of torque, and the twin motor performance with 496 horsepower and 671 pound-feet of torque. Eventually, there will be a single motor, 2-wheel drive version of this SUV, although Volvo won't give us any details on that just yet. They also won't tell us whether or not that vehicle will be front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, but we're guessing that it's more than likely it's going to be a rear-wheel drive EV. So it has the design of a Volvo, it has the technology, and it has the range that most people are looking for. Now, we can't tell you how this all comes together until we actually get behind the wheel. But if Volvo can deliver the same experience that we've had at the XC40 Recharge and the C40, well, we're expecting that Volvo will find a lot of people willing to sign up to drive an EV that can transport 6 of their closest friends. If you are interested, you can order the EX90 right now and configure it sometime this fall. Volvo expects to start making deliveries in early 2024. For more automotive coverage in a big, well-lit room, be sure to subscribe to Engadget.